Hello everyone, Calina here of StoryRetold, and I am reacting, the second video in Arglefumph, Michael Gray's video called Everything Wrong with Nancydo, Stay Tuned for Danger. There are spoilers in here, and I remember watching this way back when it was released, but it's been a while, and now that I'm not an employee of Her Interactive, I can kind of speak to some of these things, but kind of not, because I wasn't on the team during the time of this game, so I am just here to react with my opinion. So here we go. Okay. Alright, it is playing, right? Yeah.
The installation screen has cooler animation than the actual game.
This is really quiet, so I'm gonna bump it up a little bit. That's... Ow. Yeah. I mean,
Maddie is renting Aunt Eloise's apartment in New York.
Why does Aunt Eloise have an apartment in New York? She's a public school librarian who lives in Florida.
I agree. In the books, Aunt Eloise actually lived in New York. And for some reason, the game for Secrets Can Kill took place with Aunt Eloise's house being in Florida. So I think maybe in the game universe, it is that Aunt Eloise has two houses and she's renting out her apartment in New York. That's my guess, but I'm not really sure why that decision was made. So yeah, it was not explained. It seems to be a continuity issue.
School librarian is rich enough to own an apartment 3 blocks away from Central Park.
I think Aunt Eloise was supposed to be a teacher in the books. I don't know.
Maddie is a rich and famous actress, but she still lives in a rented apartment.
Renting in New York is very popular. It doesn't surprise me that she rents.
Maddie has gone so far overboard with plastic surgery that her entire body looks like it's made of plastic.
It's just the animators at the time. It's never said anywhere in the game that she had plastic surgery. It's just the animation. A product of the 90s.
Maddie is so vain, she populates her house with magazines about herself.
Well, I suppose it makes sense to keep up on the gossip, at least in the interviews that you actually gave, so it makes sense.
These pictures are so fake-looking, it's hilarious.
I agree. Photoshopping at its finest, y'all.
This magazine spread of Rick's face is terrifying.
I agree. This is terrible.
The game designers forgot to include the key that opens this locked drawer.
I agree. That is an actual error. A coding error. It was meant to be in the game, and it just wasn't the key was not coded in the position that was supposed to be made available in at the time it was supposed to be available. So yes, this is an actual bug.
In real life, daily soap operas don't make titles for individual episodes.
Really? Huh, well maybe this one does. I don't know.
It's November, and the daily TV show is only on episode 139.
Do they keep counting the numbers from the very start of the series?
Either they started filming in May, or they've had a lot of time off this year. Ned, Bess, and George all got new voice actors after one game.
What's wrong with that? I think that's a good thing. I think that's great.
Pointless compass in the lower left is replaced with an equally pointless clock.
No, it's helpful because when you're in like the studio in any place, you can't tell it's daylight or nighttime.
Take and fate do not rhyme.
That's fair. Does it have to? I mean, it does say night or light, but you're right, if it's trying to rhyme, yeah, well.
Nancy never encounters any traffic while in New York.
Or we just don't allude to it because it's pointless and not meaningful to the mystery.
Directory gives a room number for the props department, but the prop room itself is unnumbered.
It could be above the door, but you're right, from a distance, it's not numbered.
The president and founder of a TV network is forced to work out of the prop room.
Well, maybe that's the only job that maybe she didn't even need to have a job. Maybe she just wanted something to do, and so they put her there, because maybe that's what she's good at.
Rick's phone number's in the game, but you can't call it.
Well, technically you can call it, but it leads to nothing, which is not fair. I agree. That is not fair.
All soap operas have evil twins cliché.
Nothing wrong with that. If we're feeding into a cliche, we're trying to paint a picture of a soap opera. That's very true.
All soap operas have terrible actors cliché.
Sure. I accept that.
All soap operas have amnesia stories cliché.
I accept that too.
Was this game made for soap opera fans? Because I get the feeling that the author hates soap operas.
The author of this game? Or the author here? Because this is Millie's writing. But to feed into a cliche, you're trying to paint a picture of what a real life soap opera is like. So, authenticity to the Nancydo world?
I don't want to see you, Serena.
I am acting now, Serena.
No, Rory, don't go. I love you.
There's nothing wrong with that first line. The problem is the second line.
Can you believe Maddie won 3 Emmys for this role? Yeah, I can't either.
I know, she's so talented. Well, it's an Nancydo game after all. It's fictional.
I don't want to see you, Serena. I don't want to see you, Serena.
Reuse dialogue.
Yeah, I agree.
Rick's head changes positions from this shot to this shot. This scene doesn't match up with the blocking plan.
That's true, especially since it's dated the same day as this shot is supposed to be taken. Unless this is for a different scene that they're filming that same day.
Rick openly flirts with a girl half his age, and nobody finds this to be inappropriate.
Maybe he doesn't know her age, and that's just the normal Rick Arlen.
I'll be more than happy to show you the door.
Lillian is a jerk.
Nothing wrong. I mean, that is a wrong thing for sure, but that's her character, and she plays it well.
Get my agent on the phone, now!
What kind of studio are you running here? My client could have been killed.
Rick promises to get his agent involved, but the only agent who shows up is Maddie's.
Maybe he made an appearance at a different time? No.
The first 4 conversations with Maddie all end the same way. She cuts the conversation short and runs away.
A sensitive topic. It alludes to suspicion for her character.
WWB has Magnum PI on their staff, but Nancy Drew is their go-to detective.
You're Rick Arlen's agent?
Yes, I was. But I must confess that the man has no talent.
Says the man who hired him for his acting talents.
This is supposed to allude to suspicion, but yeah. They had faith in each other when they were friends.
Dwayne hates Rick and no longer works as his agent, yet he still keeps Rick's promotional items in his office.
Remember what Maddie said? All of them were on tour. Well, at least Maddie was in the Romeo and Juliet scene too, so this must be the movie poster for it, or the stage show, the performance poster. And Maddie is the client of Dwayne, so that makes sense.
Worldwide uses me almost exclusively for hiring their talent.
They've hired 3 people from you, Dwayne. Don't exaggerate.
Yeah, pride right there.
Maddie spoke highly of your abilities.
What abilities?
Yeah, I'm curious. That is a good point.
Nancy's hired as an actress, yet she does no acting whatsoever. Millie gives Nancy 3 brain teasers, then she completely disappears from the game. What a pointless character. 90% of the prop room is looking at random things that you can't interact with.
I know, isn't it great?
I get the feeling the only reason they included this in the game was so they could brag that their game has over 100 close-up graphics.
And yeah, that type of appreciation for hotspots, specifically, back in the 90s, was kind of a big deal. Because that wasn't very common in not adventure games, but games in general. Being able to look at so many spots. I mean, nowadays we have 3D worlds, which is great.
Typewriter is easily identified because it drops a letter cliché.
It's an easy clue for younger detectives and for all detectives, really, to find that clue. It's great.
There aren't any clues to help you solve this puzzle. You're just supposed to guess that 11 o'clock is the solution.
Yeah, that's... No, I think the clue for that is actually in the prop room on the bell? I think it's on the bell, in the poem on the bell.
Alpha-numeric code is repeated from the previous game.
At least we don't have 5 million of them in this game, and it's just right here.
Also like the previous game, we have a psychic person who leaves messages telling how to beat the endgame challenge.
Do we? I guess so. Maybe?
The game's progress comes to a screeching halt unless you notice this tiny package, which is half off screen and can only be seen from specific angles.
Yeah, I mean, that's not fair. It could have been easily placed on top of the table or something for identification better, or being able to find it better.
The interview with Rick contributes absolutely nothing to the plot.
Thanks, Hannah Gruen, for sending that video. I think it adds an interesting element of how much more Rick is a flirt with everybody, and how much he's prideful about it, and how he deflects attention from the threats. Because we learn in the game that some of the threats are supposed to have been made by Rick himself, just to draw attention. Some of them, not all of them.
In the book, Nancy walks in on Rick making out with Bess.
That's true.
The game replaces Bess with a bomb. Way to get my hopes up for romance in the soap opera game, you guys.
Hey, saving on animation, I guess. We're not supposed to have Bess in the game.
Bomb explodes, even if you don't trigger it by starting the tape.
Yeah, that does add quite a lot of tension to the game, which I appreciate the tension. But you're right. There could have been something that triggers that better.
Game gets away with curse words by using calculator spelling. Long conversation with William Pappas tricks the player into thinking he's an important character.
I think he was in the book, actually. But yeah, you're supposed to be able to suspect him as well for a little bit, just as a red herring.
Computer interface reused from previous game.
Which is fine. Maybe they didn't have the latest operating system at that time.
Advanced security measures involve 3D glasses.
Yes, and I think it was Lillian or someone on the email list on the computer that complained about the security of this style of lock.
Over 100 tapes are here, but Nancy guesses the correct tape on her first try.
I think it was supposed to be that the date was on there, and that's what Nancy was supposed to be looking for. On the date of the sabotage, she's looking for suspicion.
Culprit, who is trying to avoid suspicion, walks in the most suspicious way possible. Culprit disguises himself with a beard and glasses, but doesn't bother to change his clothes.
Animation budget.
It's about time you showed up. I've been waiting 45 minutes for that pizza.
This loud buzzer killed my speakers.
Yeah, it killed about everybody's speakers. It was not mixed down well.
45 minutes for that pizza.
During peak hours, the average pizza delivery time is 50 to 60 minutes. Unless he lives next door to Domino's, this pizza isn't late.
In New York? Maybe. Maybe it was across the street? We don't know.
This puzzle forces Nancy to buzz every single person in the apartment complex. Nancy is a huge jerk.
Hashtag awesome detective.
Obvious anagram is obvious.
Is it? I mean, not everybody clues in on anagrams, and this was not alluded to the player to identify that.
The year this game was released, the average plane ticket cost $324. How did Dwayne get an international flight for only $35?
That is a very good question. I count that as an error, indeed.
Letting Nancy accuse the suspect is a neat idea, which never gets used again.
It does, actually. In The Captive Curse, you get to do that.
If Nancy accuses the wrong person, Dwayne interrupts her and reveals himself, instead of keeping quiet and letting someone else take the fall for his crimes. I think I can confidently say we have another culprit who foils their own plot.
Yep.
To save on animation, the culprit confrontation starts with 15 seconds of black screen. To save on animation, the culprit confrontation is done completely in shadow.
Yeah, that is true. To save on animation. Yes. Yeah.
One of the conversation options here is about the love triangle between Dwayne, Maddie, and Rick. Too bad the love triangle doesn't come up at any other point in the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of does. I mean, if you make the connection between the French love note in Maddie's dressing room, and then you see that the French phrase book is in Dwayne's office, you can match them up and see that it's Dwayne who sent that love note to Maddie.
Because that would have been a great excuse to include a makeout scene. This puzzle.
I mean, it's a fine puzzle. It's annoying and it's super stressful, yeah. But I think it's a great puzzle.
Good luck trying to concentrate on this puzzle with that annoying alarm sounding the entire time. Ralph does not enter through the doors that Nancy unlocked.
The lock is next to the front sliding door, but it could be opening up all sliding doors. It is an override system, so...
Ralph is able to handcuff Dwayne, even though he clearly isn't holding handcuffs in this scene. Picture of Lillian is plagiarized from the movie Titanic.
Plagiarized? I mean, they rearranged it, yeah, certainly, and inserted their own art, but they were using it for depth of field and angles and stuff.
Rick is a full head taller than Maddie here, but they were roughly the same height earlier on in the game.
Same height with the heels that Maddie is wearing?
I don't want to see you, Serena.
No.
Oh, goodness. Okay, that was fun. Not as many bugs as I was expecting, but yeah, there were a few like design inconsistencies or continuity issues, but there were some connections that were missed. Anyways, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. Bye!